Hi there, it's Jen, and thanks for joining me. Today I am making a single card, which is a bit different than what I usually do in videos that I post. It's usually more than one card. But I'm making this I fell in love with this puppy dog stamp. The supplies I'm using are a 6x6 red rubber stamp by Hero Arts, and that's called Bull Jungle Prints. And this really cute puppy dog from Picket Studios, and it's called Lucky Puppy. I'm also using a piece of marker paper from Spectrum Noir, some Memento Black ink, and my Winsor Newton brush markers in greens. I am also using my stamping platform by We Are Memory Keepers, and I am removing the little foam piece since this is a red rubber stamp and it doesn't need the foam piece. I went ahead and stamped this several times. My Memento ink pad is getting a little bit dried out, so I'm going to have to re-ink it. But if you've seen my videos, you know that I don't color often, or in my opinion very well. It's something that I've been trying to practice, and so I thought this was a perfect card to practice on since there are so many leaves. I started out just grabbing 3 of my Winsor Newton greens, and then I wanted a great variation in color, or at least, I didn't want it to all to be the same shades of green. So I went ahead and I just grabbed all of them and colored all of the leaves. I'm only going to show a few leaves, and then I do speed it up also because I don't really have a technique. Um, or I guess you can call my technique elementary school technique, because when I think about alcohol coloring, I think about how I used to color when I was in elementary school in coloring books, and that is to outline the outside of the entire image and then color in the middle a different color, or even the same color, just with a lighter touch. Um, and so I kind of do that a little bit. I don't really have a technique, honestly. I've seen people color, and so I try and use the light, at least the light shade and kind of a darker shade. I don't usually use 3 colors, and a lot of times, and I did on this stamp, I used just one marker. I just used it, layered it on top of the one color on top of the color. Does that make any sense? No, Jen. I just layered the same color so that it was darker in some areas and lighter in the others, just with one marker. So that's how I color. I actually have started to enjoy it since getting these markers. Since I'm not great at coloring, it has made a huge difference for me to have the right kind of paper, the right kind of marker. And I haven't had brush markers. I've had the Spectrum Noir nibs, the bullet point, and these are awesome. I've always thought brush markers would be hard to use because the tip is thicker, but these were so easy to use, and although there are only, I believe, about 71 color choices in the brush marker for Winsor Newton, it doesn't bother me because this is not my profession to color or to teach coloring. And so the price point was a little high. I would say it's probably a mid-grade price point compared to maybe Copics, a little more expensive than like the Spectrum Noirs, but less than I think the Prismacolors and the Copic. So this is a great starter set for me. I absolutely love the color choices, and there's just enough colors where it's not overwhelming me, and I can have fun with it. And I can say that coloring this image, it was actually joyful for me, which usually coloring I just get frustrated. So this probably took me about, I don't know, 30 minutes or so to color. But I really love how it turned out. It's not perfect, but I like the different variations of greens. And I am super proud of this dog that I colored. It is so cute. I don't remember if I mentioned, but it looks like a basset hound to me, and it is actually my mom's birthday, which I'm kind of late on, and my dad's birthday is coming up. So I think they will absolutely adore this card, and this puppy is so cute. And I had this, when I saw the stamp, I knew that I was going to make a birthday card. And then I was just thinking back through my supplies, and I was like, oh, I have that. And I just wanted it to be like a fun dog, kind of hidden in the leaves, or like, you know, you see the videos on YouTube of the dogs just piling into the leaves and they're having so much fun. And so that was kind of my idea behind this card. So I went ahead and colored the dog and fussy cut it out. And then there's this little white piece that I couldn't get with my scissors, so I'm not sure what this tool is called. I believe it's a Fiskars tool. I'll have to look it up and find it, but this is what I use most of the time when I'm doing cutting small spaces like this, because it just fits really nicely on your finger and you have a lot of control over where the cut is. And so I absolutely love this little tool. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut that little piece out. And then I wanted him peeking out of the leaves. And originally I was just going to have him kind of tucked up underneath the leaves. And so what I do is I just draw a pencil mark over where his head is, or where I want his head to be on the card. And then I'm going to take my little craft knife tool again and just cut a little slit so that I can fit his head up in the leaves. I ended up kind of doing a little bit more because I didn't think it didn't give the effect that I was going for, and so I wanted him a little bit more hidden. And to do that, I went ahead and I stamped the stamp again, and I colored a few extra leaves. And as you'll see, I'll go ahead and put the kind of pile of those leaves on top of him. And then I go ahead and take, I had my black alcohol marker sitting there, so I just went ahead and took that to get rid of the white edges of the paper so it blends a little bit better. And then I took my white, I can't even think what this marker is called. It's not a jelly marker, is it? Anyhow, I go ahead and just kind of go over the eyes, the whites of the eyes, and the little spot on his nose, and then I made a few little dots on his face where his whiskers are. And then here's the additional stamp that I did to go ahead and cut out some of those leaves to layer on top of the card. And I'm just showing the coloring for this one, so I'm using this lighter, it's almost like a yellow-green color. I think one of them's lime green and one of them is, I don't know. But I think I used every single green marker on the background of this card. Just different combinations, like a dark and a light of each. So go ahead and color several of these leaves and then fussy cut them out. And then I'll go ahead and I take a piece of a double-sided tape just to get that little, where his little head is poking through the back of the paper, just to make sure that it stays in place. And then I also take a piece of foam tape, or foam square, and cut it, and I put a piece under each of his ears, and then also a little piece under his nose. And growing up, we've always had dogs or cats in our household. And when I was in high school, my parents got their first Basset Hound dog, and his name was Bogey. And I think it's kind of like your first whatever you get is the one that you probably remember the most. And this dog was, they just love this dog so much. And unfortunately, I think he was probably about 4 or 5 years old. They found out he had cancer, and they did all the treatment that they could possibly do to try to help him to save his life, and it didn't end up working, unfortunately, so he did pass away. But from that point, they started doing Basset Hound Rescue, and so they lived in Arizona at that time, and they were into the rescue, and so we always had numerous dogs. Some dogs were fosters, some dogs were fosters that they ended up adopting, but all kinds of basset hounds. And so they were involved with that for quite a while. And then my mom became interested in showing dogs, and so they became really good friends with some of the breeders here in Arizona. And when you have, or when you're trying to get show quality dogs, they are not bred the same way as just like if you were to have two dogs in your house that had puppies. A lot of times the process is a little different. I'm not going to go into it. But needless to say, there were puppies. And so, by the way, Basset Hound puppies have got to be the cutest, especially when their ears start to drop and they're just padding around with their big floppy ears. They are so adorable. Um, Anyhow, I forgot where I was. At any rate, my parents did that. At one time, I think they had 8 to 10 dogs. So when they lived in Arizona, they had about 8 dogs, and probably about 10 or so years ago, they moved to Ohio. And when they moved, they didn't continue to show dogs. And so now they have about 3. But that is why I chose this puppy dog, and why I think my mom is absolutely going to love it. I hope you love this video as much as I enjoyed making it. And as always, if you liked this video or found it informative, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to subscribe, please go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And again, thanks so much for joining me. I will catch you later.